The wind howled like a beast, clawing through the jagged rocks of the frozen wasteland. Snow fell in thick sheets, turning bloodstains into forgotten memories. She stood barefoot, her arms wrapped tightly around the child. A girl no older than 2, pale as the snow, eyes wide with silent questions. Behind them, the heavy steel door of the underground bunker creaked open, casting a fiery orange glow into the white world. A shadow appeared in the doorway, tall, armed, watching. Aurora didn't look back. Her heartbeat was louder than the storm. She had already lost everything. Her home, her people, her past. But not this. Not her daughter. Not Lyra. They called the surface a grave. But to Aurora it was freedom. And somewhere beyond the ice lay hope, a place where Lyra could live without fear, without walls, without experiments and control. The man in the doorway stepped forward. His voice echoed into the night. "You can't run from what she is." Aurora tightened her grip. "Watch me." And then she vanished into the snow. The hunt had begun, but so had the reckoning. The world had stopped breathing years ago. Once vibrant cities now lay buried under thick sheets of snow and silence. Oceans had frozen at their edges. Forests became graveyards of frostbitten trunks. The sun, a dim memory behind endless gray clouds, no longer warmed the earth. They called it the collapse, a series of chain reactions set off by decades of human arrogance and a single failed experiment. Deep beneath the surface, humanity clung to life inside steel bunkers, silent tombs built before the end, lined with canned food, dying technology, and fear. Outside, the surface was uninhabitable, a cursed realm where even sound froze midair. But beneath that frozen skin of the world, people still whispered about survival and rumors of something more. Aurora had lived in Bunker 17 since she was a girl. Her mother had died when she was 10. Her father, a technician, disappeared into the tunnels and never came back. Now, at 26, Aurora had only one reason to keep breathing: her daughter, Lyra. Lyra wasn't like other children. She rarely cried. Her skin was too pale, almost glowing under the flickering LED lights of the bunker. And her eyes, ice blue and ancient, like they remembered things she hadn't lived. No one talked about it out loud, but everyone noticed. They knew Lyra was different. They also knew she was dangerous. It had started 2 months ago. The lights began failing more frequently. Oxygen filters malfunctioned. Soldiers began patrolling more aggressively, scanning children. Aurora knew something was coming. She could feel it in the walls, in the way people stopped making eye contact. The silence wasn't safety anymore, it was warning. Then one night, the speaker crackled. The commander's voice was calm, but it chilled Aurora more than the snow ever could. Sector C will undergo medical testing at 0500. All parents are to report with their children immediately. But it wasn't testing. It was selection. Aurora didn't wait. She gathered what little food she could, wrapped Lyra in a torn blanket, and crept through service tunnels her father once showed her. The emergency exit had never been opened, but it was their only chance. As she stood before the massive steel door, Lyra still asleep in her arms, Aurora hesitated, not because of the cold or the danger or the uncertainty, but because she knew once they stepped outside, there would be no coming back. The console blinked. The override code worked. The door opened, and the world screamed. Blinding white light flooded in, followed by the sting of air so cold it stole her breath. She wrapped her arms tighter around Lyra and stepped forward. Behind her, alarms had started to blare. Boots echoed in the tunnel, and then came the voice. "Aurora, stop. You know what she is." She didn't turn. She didn't need to. She knew who stood behind her. Commander Reese, the man who once helped her survive, the man who now hunted her child. Aurora didn't look back. She stepped into the snow, barefoot and burning with purpose. The wind roared like a beast, swallowing her silhouette as the door sealed shut behind them. This was no longer a bunker. It was a prison, and she had just broken free. Darkness clung to the maintenance tunnel like a second skin. Aurora's breath came in quick, visible bursts as she navigated the narrow space. Lyra cradled tightly against her chest. Her hands were trembling, from cold or fear. She couldn't tell anymore. Maybe both. The overhead lights flickered, casting ghostly shadows on the curved metal walls. Every sound echoed too loudly. Every footstep felt like it would give them away. Lyra stirred slightly, but didn't cry. She never did. That silence, once a relief, now haunted Aurora. A child, that quiet had learned the cost of noise far too early. Behind her, deep in the corridors of Bunker 17, the alarm had stopped. That was worse. The silence meant they knew. She crouched beneath a low pipe, heart pounding. The emergency exit was only 2 corridors away. She could almost feel the draft of cold air seeping through the cracks in the rusted door. But the path between her and freedom was no longer unguarded. The soldiers had sealed off most known exits, except this one, the one her father told her about the night before he disappeared. If anything ever happens, don't ask questions. Just take her and go. The code is still active. Aurora had asked 1,000 questions since then. None had answers. But now wasn't the time. She reached the final intersection, a wide steel hallway lit by a single emergency lamp. And there, between her and the door, stood him, Commander Reese. Once her mentor, once a friend, now a threat. He didn't raise his weapon. He didn't move. He just watched her, eyes unreadable beneath the dim red light. "You don't have to do this, Aurora," he said calmly. "You're scared. I understand that. But she's not safe out there. Neither are you." Aurora held Lyra tighter. "She's not safe in here." He stepped forward, just one slow, deliberate step. "You know what she is. She's not just a child. She's the last part of a project none of us fully understand. If she dies out there, everything we've sacrificed is for nothing." "Everything you sacrificed," Aurora snapped. "Not me. You think running will change her blood? Her purpose? She's not just your daughter. She's the key to reversing what happened to our world." "She's my child," Aurora hissed. "Not your experiment. Not your solution. Not your future. Mine." For a moment, Reese said nothing. Then his voice softened. "You were never meant to find out. I didn't need to. I felt it. The way people looked at her. The way the lights flicker when she's near. The way you all feared her instead of protecting her." She took a step to the side, toward the panel next to the door. Her hand hovered above it. "Aurora," he said, more sharply now. "Step away from the door. If you leave now, you become a fugitive. You become a traitor." She met his eyes. "If I stay, I become a mother who let them take her child." And with that, she slammed her hand against the control pad. The lock hissed. The steel groaned. Cold air slammed into the hallway like a scream. Snowflakes danced into the artificial light as the massive door opened for the first time in years. Reese lunged forward. Too late. Aurora was already running. Her bare feet hit the snow. The shock of cold was immediate, biting, alive. But she didn't stop. She didn't look back. The last thing she heard before the door began to close behind her was Reese shouting her name into the wind. And then there was only the storm and the long white road ahead. Snow crunched beneath her feet like breaking glass. Aurora stumbled through the frozen landscape, the storm biting every inch of exposed skin. Lyra was pressed tightly against her chest, wrapped in torn layers of bunker fabric. Her small face was pale but peaceful, her breath warm against Aurora's collarbone. The cold was worse than she had imagined. Not just painful, it was alive. A beast made of silence and wind, clawing at her, whispering doubts into her ears. "You won't make it. She'll freeze before morning. Go back. Beg for mercy. Aurora pressed on. Mountains loomed like sleeping giants on either side of the narrow pass she'd entered. The sun was invisible, buried behind a sky of swirling white. Every direction looked the same, but Aurora trusted her instincts and her father's old maps, now reduced to memory. Somewhere beyond these cliffs lay the summit beacon, a pre-collapse facility rumored to hold the last functional atmospheric stabilizer. The same place her father had believed in, the same place Reese never wanted her to reach, and the only hope for Lyra's survival. She trudged forward, breath heaving, body aching. Every few steps she had to stop, kneel, and check on Lyra. The child never cried, never whimpered. She just watched Aurora with those deep, unnatural eyes, far too calm for someone so small. At times, the snow around them shimmered faintly, reacting to Lyra's presence. Once, a gust of wind that had roared in from the cliffs suddenly halted, dead still, as if pausing out of respect. Aurora noticed these things and feared them, but she also clung to them, because they meant something. Lyra wasn't just surviving. She was changing the world around her. Hours passed. Time lost all meaning in the storm. Aurora's legs began to shake beneath her. Her arms ached from holding Lyra close. Her lips cracked, bleeding. She collapsed near a jagged rock wall, carving a shallow alcove with her bare hands. Snow stung her skin like needles, but she refused to put Lyra down. "Just a minute," she whispered hoarsely, rocking slightly. "Just to breathe." The child blinked up at her, then, quietly, lifted one hand. A faint glow pulsed from her palm, a soft blue light, weak, but there. The snow around them warmed slightly. Steam hissed from Aurora's coat sleeve, where frost had begun to settle. Aurora stared. "You're doing this," she whispered. "Aren't you?" Lyra didn't answer, just closed her eyes and leaned into her. Somewhere in the distance, a low mechanical hum echoed across the snow, deep, vibrating, unnatural. Aurora tensed. That wasn't wind. That was machinery. Or worse. She stood quickly, knees nearly buckling, and started moving again. She didn't know what followed them. Reese, a drone, or something else the bunkers had buried. But she knew this. They had to keep going. Beyond the cliffs, she spotted a faint glimmer of light, green, blinking, artificial. Hope surged in her chest. The entrance to the old station. It had to be. The storm howled behind her. Not yet. Not now. Aurora pushed forward with everything left in her. Snow whipped around her like a serpent. But she was faster. She reached the edge of the ridge, where an old steel platform jutted out from the cliffside. The door to the beacon station stood shut, covered in frost, but intact. She slammed her hand on the panel. Nothing. Then Lyra reached forward and touched the surface. The panel lit up instantly, glowing with life. The door hissed open. Aurora stepped inside, the warmth of the old reactor brushing her face like a forgotten memory. She collapsed just beyond the threshold, holding her child tightly. The cold was behind them now, but the real battle had only begun. The door sealed shut behind her with a heavy clang, cutting off the storm outside like the closing of a book. Inside, the beacon station was silent, eerily so. Dust covered the floors, and cobwebs hung from the control panels like the ghosts of a world that once was. The flickering lights above cast long, twitching shadows across the walls. Aurora collapsed onto the cold metal floor, still clutching Lyra. Her breath was shallow, her body numb, but they had made it. They were safe for now. The warmth of the backup reactor buzzed softly in the background, just enough to keep the frost from creeping in. She pulled Lyra close, resting her forehead against the child's. "We're here," she whispered. "We made it. But peace is a luxury the hunted never get to keep." A faint clank echoed down the corridor. Aurora froze. It wasn't the building settling. It was a footstep. She scrambled to her feet, backing into the far wall, heart pounding. The child stirred but remained quiet. Then the voice came. Low. Familiar. I warned you not to run. From the shadows, Commander Reese stepped forward. His coat was tattered, his beard dusted with frost. Snow clung to his shoulders like a curse that refused to let go, but his eyes, cold, relentless, were just as she remembered them. Aurora instinctively shifted in front of Lyra. How did you find us? You think I didn't know where you'd go? Your father talked about this place like it was some myth. You believed him. So did I once. He glanced around the room, almost nostalgic. He helped build this beacon, Aurora. He thought it could reverse the collapse. That Lyra might be the final key to waking it up. Aurora didn't respond. She was scanning the room subtly, searching for anything that could be used as a weapon. You still don't understand what she is, do you? Reese asked quietly. She wasn't just born. She was engineered, spliced with what little clean genetic data we had left. She's not just your daughter. She's a design, a last attempt to fix what humanity broke. She's a child, Aurora growled. She bleeds, breathes, dreams. You don't get to define her by a blueprint you forced into her before she could even speak. Reese looked at her, and for the first time, something flickered in his gaze. Regret, maybe, or exhaustion. Do you think I wanted this? He said, voice low. Do you think I wanted to send soldiers to drag children out of their mother's arms? Do you think it was easy watching everything we knew collapse? Then why did you do it? She snapped. Why chase me across ice and death? If you once cared, why become this? Reese stepped closer. She didn't move. Because you're right, Aurora. I did care. And maybe I still do. But caring doesn't matter when the world is dying. Hope doesn't matter. Results do. He looked past her, at Lyra. She can't run from what she was made to be. None of us can. Aurora took a breath. Steady, cold, unforgiving. Maybe she can't, but I can teach her to choose. A silence fell between them. Thick, heavy, final. Reese reached into his coat slowly, pulling out something small. A handheld transmitter. There are others coming. I called them off once. I won't do it again. Then you'd better hope she never turns against you, Aurora whispered. Because if she does, there won't be a second chance. Suddenly, a faint glow emerged from Lyra's hands. Soft, blue-white light filled the room. The panels behind Aurora flickered, reacting. The station was waking up. Reese's eyes widened. She's activating it, all of it. Aurora stepped between him and the child again. She's not just your solution anymore. She's becoming something else. Becoming what? Aurora narrowed her eyes. Free. The station trembled as ancient systems came to life for the first time in decades. Screens flickered, casting blue light across the control room. Dust burned off old circuitry. Vents hissed softly, exhaling stale air like a buried creature taking its first breath. The dormant beacon, the last functioning atmospheric stabilizer, had begun to stir. And at the center of it all stood Lyra. Her small hands hovered inches above the main console, her pale skin bathed in light. Symbols and codes flickered across the surface, responding not to touch, but to presence. Her presence. Aurora stood frozen, watching her daughter in a state of silent awe. Reese had stepped back, his transmitter forgotten in his hand, eyes locked on the impossible. She's syncing with the system, he said in disbelief. There's no manual override, no interface. It's like it was made for her. Aurora nodded slowly, because it was. A low pulse echoed through the station, followed by a rising hum. Outside, the wind began to calm. The snow thinned, no longer falling in furious flurries, but in soft, scattered flakes. Then the screen lit up fully, one single word blinking. Stabilization, ready. But then came the warning. Another message appeared. Energy core. Manual power required. Level critical. Aurora stepped forward and scanned the panel. The core is dead, she murmured. Not enough charge to activate the final sequence. It needs to be powered manually. Reese read the subtext instantly. Manual override means direct link. No buffer. No shield. Whoever connects won't survive the transfer. Silence. Aurora turned to Lyra. The girl was calm, quiet, her hands still glowing faintly. She can't survive the link, Aurora said softly. She's too small. It would burn through her. You won't survive it either, Reese said, his voice low. Aurora looked at him. No fear in her eyes, only purpose. She doesn't need me to survive. She needs me to give her a future. She kissed Lyra's forehead, whispering words only a mother could say, and gently guided her away from the console. The child's glow faded slightly, confused but obedient. Mama, she whispered, voice tiny. Aurora smiled through tears. It's okay, little star. You've already done more than anyone ever asked. Now it's my turn. She turned to Reese. Promise me something. He nodded slowly, voice barely audible. Anything. Don't let them find her. Not ever. She's not your solution. She's the world's beginning. And without waiting, Aurora stepped into the override chamber. The door hissed, shut behind her. She placed her palms on the interface. Lights engulfed her instantly, golden, searing, beautiful. Pain bloomed like fire through her body. The hum turned into a roar. Outside, the beacon tower lit up. A beam of energy shot into the sky, piercing the thick clouds. Satellites buried in orbit stirred, responding to the signal. Across the frozen horizon, pressure systems began to shift. Wind patterns reversed. Snow began to melt. The earth began to breathe again. Inside, the lights dimmed. The chamber door creaked open. Aurora was gone. Just steam and silence. Reese stood at the threshold, staring at the empty chamber. Behind him, Lyra approached quietly and took his hand. She's not gone, Lyra said softly, looking toward the tower. She's everywhere now. He looked down at her, stunned. And for the first time in years, the warmth of the sun began to filter through the clouds. A new dawn had begun.